Hey everyone, welcome to UK Media Warrior. Today we're looking at episode 4, season 4, episode 1 of The Flash Reborn. This is probably going to be a very quick review compared to my normal ones because there really wasn't much to say about this. One thing I will start out with saying is I'm really getting annoyed with the CW for having all of their DC shows wrap up huge, sometimes earth-shattering conclusions at the end of the final season, so huge cliffhangers, and they wrap them all up in the first episode. There's no payout, there's no consequences anymore. They did it with The Flash in this episode, but they've done it with Arrow also. The first episode of the new Arrow season, the end of the last season, everyone gets blown up on an island supposedly. Beginning of this one, pretty much everyone survives. Last season of The Flash, Barry has to go into the Speed Force, sacrifice himself, knowing he will never be able to come back, basically to save the world, the universe, whatever, from falling apart. First episode of this season, by the end of it, Barry's back. And he is absolutely fine. In fact, he's better than fine. He's running faster than he's ever run before. He feels fantastic. Now, it's... Why? You've got 20 odd episodes every season. And a lot of them nowadays are becoming filler episodes that aren't really very good. They don't have to... But I was hoping The Flash wouldn't appear for maybe 3 or 4 episodes. Have some payout here. Have the team have to deal without him. I mean, yes, okay. This episode starts 6 months from the time that Barry vanishes into the Speed Force. So off camera, they have been without him for 6 months. But that doesn't matter to us. We haven't seen that. So it would have been nice to see 3 or 4 episodes of the team having to deal without Barry and seeing how they get on. But no, Cisco basically pulls an Indiana Jones here, where he fakes out the Speed Force into thinking Barry is actually still in there by throwing in this red orb of something or other, so he can pull Barry out while putting the orb in, taking his place. By Indiana Jones, I mean in the first Indiana Jones film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, at the very beginning, Indy's in the temple, gets a bag full of sand, swaps it out with the gold idol, hoping they'll weigh the same so it doesn't set off the track. No, obviously in Indiana Jones it does set off the track, but the basis is still the same. Cisco's trying to fake out the Speed Force. Now, whether there's going to be any repercussions from that down the line, we'll just have to wait and see. But for right now, it seems he got away with it. So Barry comes back. He's 300 miles away from the city, naked, with a beard, great big beard. So obviously, even though he's in the Speed Force, he hasn't shaved, and time must move forward because he grows a beard, although his hair hasn't grown to the same length as... Anyway, so he comes back naked and he's a little bit out of his mind, a little bit loopy, writing weird symbols on walls, not being able to articulate, and they're trying to figure out what the problem with him is. Now, one thing I did find odd, I mean, at the beginning of the episode you see the team dealing with Peekaboo, a teleporter, and that's fun. I enjoyed seeing the team working like that. Iris in the control room telling them where to go, what to do. Cisco and Kid Flash out on the street. That was great, and I loved their interaction, and that was fun. And the way they took Peekaboo down, you know, with Joe there, with the police force, that was cool. Very smart, very clever, worked out, went down perfectly well. So that was great. I loved that. But Moody Iris was getting a bit much. I mean, the problem is we've had Supergirl, The Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow all come out at the same time. And I've just finished watching a Supergirl episode, which had pretty much the entire episode was a moody, annoying Kara, Supergirl. And then I go into The Flash, and I have to deal with a moody, annoying Iris, pretty much, all episode. So that was a bit... Really, CW, you know these shows are going to come out at the same time, and you give us the main female protagonists on both shows like this. So, that was a bad choice for me, but whatever. But anyway, Cisco goes behind Iris's back and devises a way of pulling Barry out the Speed Force. To do this, he goes and gets Caitlin Snow's help. And we find that Caitlin's been working in a bar for the last 6 months. Why has she been working in a bar when she's got PhDs coming out of her ears? We don't know. Even Cisco says when he's sitting in the bar, why are you working in a bar when you've got all these PhDs? And she doesn't really give him an answer. We find out at the end of the episode that she's been working for somebody called Amonette, who's like a female mobster from the comics. We've also called Blacksmith, I think. She has the ability to bend metal, that sort of thing. A little bit like Magneto, but different. But basically she can control metal. So it'd be interesting to see Amonette come up, but obviously we know that she isn't the main bad guy, because the main bad guy this season is revealed to be the Thinker. Now that could be fun, because this is the first time, and I've been calling for this for seasons. For the last 3 seasons, we've had evil speedsters for Barry to fight, and it got boring. I'm sorry, it just did. Every new season, oh, it's a new evil speedster. The Flash fights more than just bad speedsters. So in this season, we get the Thinker. Now that's going to shake things up a bit, so that's going to be cool, because the Thinker's just going to be really, really smart, really, really inventive, thinking outside the box, and he's going to be throwing curveballs at Team Flash all the way through the season. So that should be really good. I'm really excited to see that coming down the pipe. So I can't wait for that. Grant Gustin's acting in this episode was fantastic. The guy always brings it. But in this episode, where he's got to play, Loopy off the wall, should be in a psychiatric ward rather than in a police station, which for some reason why they don't do that, I'm not entirely sure. It probably saved them on set design. They're probably thinking, okay, we've written, the Flash has come back, but he's loopy, he's out of his head, he can't speak straight, he's writing all over the place. If you found somebody naked like that in the middle of the street, he'd get sent to a padded room very swiftly. But in the Flash, Barry gets sent to an empty police station room where he gets locked in so he can write all over the walls. Well, of course he does. Anyway, so they have to get the Flash back, not only because Cisco wants his best friend back, but because a bad guy has appeared called the Samurai, who insists that if the Flash doesn't turn up in 24 hours, he's going to level the city, even though he doesn't actually give any proof that he can fulfill his threats. And rather than Team Kid Flash or Team Vibe or whatever they were going by in that particular time, trying to take this guy down, because they've been working for the last 6 months fighting metahumans, but when this guy turns up, rather than trying to think up plans of how to take him down because they know Barry's gone, instead Cisco says, well, we won't bother doing that. I will just work on getting Barry back, because I want him back as he's my mate anyway. So that was a bit weird. Why didn't they just take him down themselves? There's no reason they probably couldn't. I mean, I know Iris says that 1 out of 3 metahumans isn't a really good success rate, and okay, that's true. But nonetheless, don't even try to come up with a plan for taking down this samurai, who they've never met before. They don't know what powers he's got. They don't look into it. They just spend their time getting Barry back from the Speed Force so he can fight the samurai for them. And Barry, as I say, he's loopy, is out of his head. Nobody knows how to get him back. Caitlin has a couple of ideas, but they're not panning out. Joe tries to speak to Barry. That doesn't bring him out. Iris tries to speak to him. That doesn't bring him out. So they lock him away at Star Labs, and the timeline for the samurai ends, and Joe's there with the police force facing down the samurai, and the samurai says, well, the Flash hasn't turned up, so I'm going to level your city. And then Iris walks out of nowhere and hands herself over to the samurai, saying, if you take me, the Flash will come for me, because he always does. Really? You've got no way of knowing that, Iris. Barry is out of his mind. He's out of his gourd right now. You've been trying to speak to him for the last few hours and you haven't even made a dent. Giving yourself up to this guy who's a bad guy who you know absolutely nothing about is really a surefire way of getting yourself killed. And as they've just spent the last entire season trying to keep you alive, it doesn't really say much for you that you would just hand yourself over to this guy in the hopes that Barry comes around. But, of course, as soon as Joe goes rushing back to Star Labs and says, Barry, you have to snap out of it. Iris is going to die if you don't. That's pretty much all it takes. And Barry snaps out of it and races off in the new Flash costume to save Iris. Now, here is my biggest problem with this episode. As Barry rushes off to fight the samurai and save Iris, the rest of the team are huddled around the computers and they're all watching them and they're going, my God, look at how fast he's going. He's never gone this fast. He's going faster than we've ever possibly thought he could go. And Wally's saying, yeah, he's even going faster than me. I could never go that fast. So, considering how fast we have seen Barry run before, we should be seeing basically doing supersonic speeds here. You know, he should have no problem catching up with a samurai wearing a rocket pack. And yet, he does. It takes him minutes to catch up with the guy. They race all the way out of town before he catches up with the guy, and then suddenly in a windmill park. And the samurai is cutting down windmills to try and block the Flash. Barry should be going so fast here that even if the samurai had time to cut down these windmills, they would be standing still because Barry is moving so fast. That we have seen him move that fast before. It happens in nearly every episode where he says, oh, I'm going to go for pizza. And bang, he's gone. 2 seconds later, he's back with the pizza. If he can move that fast to get pizza, then everybody else is basically standing, from his perspective, everybody else is standing still. He is moving so fast, nothing else in the world is moving. But the problem is they have given us that, they have shown us that on screen, but they have to keep changing it up because if they had that happen all the time, Barry's running that fast, he would sort out every problem in 2 minutes flat. That would be incredibly short episodes. So they keep effing up how fast he goes and how fast, you know, the reactions of everyone around him to his speed. They keep changing it up to make sure the plot for that episode works, which is really annoying, and it's starting to get a bit stupid, really. So I say in this episode, if he's moving as fast as everyone back at Flash HQ is saying, those windmills wouldn't be falling. He wouldn't have to dodge them. They wouldn't be moving from his perspective. And he would be catching up with that samurai in no time at all. He would save Iris. It wouldn't be an issue. But of course, it's the big fight at the end of the episode, so all of that goes out the window and they have to fudge it, and it actually makes it look like he's running slower than we've seen him run in previous seasons. So it just makes it even odder when everybody else is back at Flash HQ saying, wow, he's going so much faster than he normally does. Well, no, he's not, because you're showing us visually that he doesn't look like he is. So that's my main annoyance with this episode. Overall, I loved it. Cisco, his one-liners, razor sharp as always. That character is fantastic. He's the best character, for me at least. He's the best character out of the entire cast. But Barry comes in a close second. Joe has finally moved in with the DA, so that's cool. His love life is progressing nicely now. He hasn't got to worry just about his kids, you know, or just depend on his kids. He's now got, you know, perhaps a fiance down the line. We'll have to wait and see there, but that's cool to see. The others didn't really have a lot to do. Obviously, Caitlin, who left the team at the end, again, Caitlin leaves the team at the end of the last season saying, I need to be away, I can't be with you guys, I don't know if I'm going to become Killer Frost again, I can't risk it. And in this episode, nope, she's back on the team again. No problem whatsoever. It's only been 6 months. She's been working at the bar for 6 months, but she's right back on the team again. But at the end of the episode, we see her turn into Killer Frost. And then she's outside in an alley and she's fighting to regain Caitlin. So has she found a way to control the Killer Frost side of her? Or does it just come out when she's angry? Is she like a Killer Frost version of the Hulk? But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, obviously, Julian had that amulet thing that he gave her last season, I think it was, that helped restrain the Killer Frost thing. So maybe they can come up with something like that again. But anyway, that's it for my review for this episode. The Flash Reborn. Overall, not a bad opening episode for The Flash. Again, annoying that they wrapped up the cliffhanger from last season so incredibly fast in one episode. The end battle sequence just didn't make any sense. But overall, love seeing the gang back together again. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. I look forward to the next episode. Until then, you guys take care, and if you like this episode, my review, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, or perhaps share this on your Facebook. But until next time, take it easy. See you later.